What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
There's this two-part documentary series, Leaving Neverland, which everybody was talking about, so I had to watch it. It's about the Michael Jackson pedophile allegations. Well, it's about these two men now who have finally came out as being molested by Michael Jackson. So the documentary follows their story as they kind of retell their story of getting how they met Michael and formed relationships with him, as well as Michael Jackson with the families of both of these kids, and takes you through basically the full timeline of, Jackson getting Neverland Ranch and the allegations that happen and how everything the explanations for why everything happened the way it did, and how these two kids didn't talk about come out with the truth when they had the opportunity to during the first round of allegations of Michael Jackson. But yeah, Michael Jackson, it's a weird thing because it's something that it seems like everybody knew, unless you're just a diehard Michael Jackson fan and you're just like dedicated. You're like, as I talked about, there's a lot of people that want to latch onto something and have a fundamentalist, like religious belief in something, despite like proof. And it's weird how somebody has, like, of course, the guy who's rich and famous, who is surrounded by children all the time and has a mansion devoted to a child's wonderland, who gets accused of molesting kids on multiple occasions. Of course, that guy molests kids. Like, there's so many signs that, like, it'd be like, like an athlete who like constantly gets accused of like rape and like beating women, and it's like, but he's never been convicted. It's like, yeah, but all these allegations, or even better, the fucking Bill Cosby, comics knew that it's like, he even has jokes in his specials about putting Spanish fly in women's drinks. There's an episode of The Cosby Show where he spikes the barbecue sauce and has the whole family over, and he does that so he can fuck his wife. Like, right out in front of your face. And it's like, Michael Jackson had Neverland right out in front of your face. He had kids all around him, It's insane. But you have money. When you have a lot of money, you can get away with a lot of things. Literally, you can get away with a lot of things. I mean, this documentary didn't come out until, 10 years after Michael Jackson died, which I love his music. It's very difficult to... We're in the age of everybody's getting called out on their bullshit. Like, all the people that grew up in a time where there was no social media, where it's like the only way to find out something is if it's in the news or in a newspaper. So it's like there's very few, like a very limited exposure. Like, you can hide away and have a secret life a lot easier back in the 80s and before than you can now in the 90s. And retroactively, people are finding out things now about what happened in the past and people's transgressions, and it's coming to light, hence Bill Cosby. But yeah, it follows two of the kids. One was 7 and one was 10 when Michael Jackson started molesting them. And they go into detail. And it is interesting because there's these jokes where it's like, Michael Jackson, like, I think it was like Dave Chappelle, where it's like, yeah, his dick had glitter on it. Of course we knew it was like they described his penis accurately. But like his routine, Michael's routine in bed, which is weird when these people are describing what they did. So in my head, I'm seeing Michael Jackson have sex with a child, which is not something that I intended to ever have in my head. So it's definitely, viewer discretion is advised. If hearing about kids getting molested by Michael Jackson maybe is a trigger for you, then I wouldn't recommend this 2-part series. But I would say this 2-part series is amazing and basically uncovers the fact that Michael Jackson was a very successful pedophile in his time, I would say. I mean, if that's your goal, if that's who you are, I mean, he was very successful in music as well, don't get me wrong, but his money made him basically like with Jared from Subway, like it would be his like wet dream, like to be Michael Jackson. It's like he got away with it, and they didn't even come out with the documentary till a decade after he died. Meanwhile, Jared from Subway is in like prison somewhere, right? Rightfully so. Michael Jackson should have been in prison somewhere. Fucking like all these like musicians, athletes, comics. It's like all these people should have been. It should have come out. I mean, it came out. It should have been taken seriously. But it's crazy because you watch this. There was another documentary like Abducted in Plain Sight on Netflix. It's about a guy who basically befriends a family and molests kids and also has relationships with the parents. Now, Michael Jackson had a similar strategy, didn't necessarily have sex with the parents as far as we knew, but he, basically befriended the family. So the families felt like Michael Jackson, the pop star, the king of pop, was a part of their family. So they allowed him to like, yeah, it's cool, go stay with Michael Jackson. And it takes you through where they're like, at first they were wary of it. It's like, oh yeah, it's kind of weird that he wants to sleep with our son. But then after a while, it's like, oh, well, Michael's kind of a kid. It's like, okay, that's fine. I don't know. It's weird how you can get to that place, but I could see over time how you can get to that place. Potentially. I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like for Michael Jackson or anybody that big to just be a part of your family all of a sudden. And it's usually these kids that were like dancing, doing the Michael Jackson dance. It was adorable. So he's like, oh, well, or the kid from the Pepsi commercial. But these kids, they in some ways, because Michael would help them, one of them had a big career as dance choreographer for like NSYNC and Britney Spears. And the other one, I think, became a director. And it's like, and it wasn't until they both got married to women, and it wasn't until they both had kids where it's just like everything derailed for them. And that's when they realized, I think the reality of what happened to them as children kind of came to a head with their reality. And that's when coming out about what happened to them as kids. Because when they're kids, they think, oh, I'm going to jail too. Like if they find out, if I tell the truth that Michael Jackson is fucking me in like they chronicled all the places that it happened. It was like insane. This documentary is insane, right? And it's based on these two guys and their stories. But I mean, unless they got together before, or there's like transcripts that describe what Michael Jackson is into sexually, it's not a common routine that Michael Jackson's into. Like, people are kind of into their things, and he had a kind of his own lane, for sure. Fucked up individual, right? If you could put his father in jail for crimes committed to people because of what damage he did to his own children, sure, put him in jail too. Which maybe they'll figure out a way to like bring people back to life just so they can put him in jail. Like he wasn't punished long enough. But yeah, crazy documentaries. I can't see how you can come out of watching those documentaries and not thinking Michael Jackson was a fucking monster, but also a creative genius. And he did good things. I mean, I'm sure he knew he was fucked up. I'm sure that's why he ended up dying, is because he couldn't live with what he knew. He was getting away with all this shit for so long. You can't live that long when you got that kind of stress on you. Anyway, check out Leaving Neverland if you want to seek the truth. New episodes of this show come out every day. Subscribe everywhere podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder. InspiredDisorder.com for all of my artwork. At Ray Taylor for me on all social media. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!